So you've been asked to set up a document in MLA style or MLA format, and you're not sure how to do it correctly. This video will show you how to incorporate the various elements of what we call manuscript format and in-text citations. Generally, you would also include a Works Cited page, but I'm not going to get into that here because it would make the video really long. Manuscript setup in MLA style is pretty straightforward, but lots of students still make a bunch of errors in pretty much any of the elements, or sometimes many of the elements. In addition to this video, don't forget that you have resources that can help you get it right. They might be on paper or in your OneNote, but there are also approximately 11 billion websites that also show how to do MLA correctly. All right, let's get started. So I have my argument here. It is a response to a poem, well, really song lyrics, but we're going to treat it as a poem. And I have several paragraphs, and I think the paragraphs are all right, but it is absolutely not set up in MLA format. Just about everything that needs to be here is not here, and things are done inconsistently and incorrectly, and we want it to be the other way around. So the first thing I'm going to do is start at the top and put in the page number. Now I've double-clicked at the top of the page. It opens up basically the margin where normally you cannot type, and you can tell you're in the margin because it gives you this dashed line. It's one of the things we call a header, and Word has opened up the section in the ribbon for the header, and that is convenient because what I need is this button over here that says page number, and I'm going to click on it so that it opens the menu, and I'm going to scoot right over to plain number 3. And it puts in a page number here. Now, you might be wondering, could I not just type number 1? And certainly you could. You're a free agent. But the problem with that is that then every single page will be numbered 1, and that could be confusing. So we use the button that says page number instead. Then you type your last name. In this particular case, I'm using a made-up student name, and then space. So last name, space, page number, and then double-click anywhere below that dashed line. Then I'm going to build the other thing that we call a header, which is the information on the title page. It only appears on the title page, and it is definitely below that dashed line, or you're in the wrong place. So first of all, we write in the student name. Again, I'm using a made-up name. Then the teacher name. Then the course name. And the great thing about MLA format is that it's all about being streamlined and efficient. So all of this information is always typed in the exact same order so that the person reading it always knows who is who. We don't have to wonder, well, which one is the teacher and which one is the student, because the order is always the same. And then we don't have to label those things, author or teacher or anything like that. The last thing we put in this top corner is also related to how everything is meant to be streamlined and efficient, and that is the date in a very specific format. And it is in this format so that it is not abbreviated, but it is as brief as possible. So we're spelling out the month in total, we're writing out the year in total, but we're not adding in any clutter of any other punctuation or letters or anything. So it is the day, the month, and the year. So it's in order from smallest to biggest. And for the day, we don't add in a TH to say 8th or anything like that. It is just 8 April 2021 or whatever the date is, and nothing else. Also pared down and simple is the title, which comes next. Now this piece we show as special in one way only, and that is by centering it when everything else is up against the left or right margin. So I'm just going to call this for now style in I Am a Rock. Notice I am capitalizing all of the major words, and I'm also putting the title of the poem in quotation marks because it is a small text, so it does not get italics or anything, it gets quotation marks. I'm not doing anything else to the title to make it stand out. Nothing else needs to be done to make it stand out. Do not use a different font. Do not make the font bigger. Do not bold it, italicize, or underline it. It is exactly the same as the rest of your text, except that it is centered. If you want to make it creative and impactful, come up with a really snappy phrase. Do not change the font. Now, speaking of font, that's another thing we want to change because this is not the correct MLA font. We want a font that has serif. Now, serif are these little ticks. You can see up here, I have them at the top of the V. The one here has a little tick, and at the bottom, you see these little ticks. Those are called serifs. Calibri is a sans serif font, which means it does not have those little ticks, so it makes it less readable. So we're going to change the font to the standard MLA font, which is Times New Roman, and we're going to make it 12 point. It's so that it is big enough to read, but not so big that you're insulting your teacher by suggesting that they might be fooled into thinking that your piece is longer. The next thing I'm doing is adding indents to all the paragraphs because one thing, well, first of all, that is what you do. You indent the first line of a paragraph. But the second reason I'm doing that is because I'm about to change the line spacing because this is not correct. There's inconsistency, it's inelegant and less readable, especially when you get into long paragraphs, when all the lines are crammed together, it is harder to read. It's also harder for your teacher to give feedback if they're reading it on paper. So we want to, again, press Control-A to select all, and we're going to change the line spacing so that it is consistent throughout completely. So line spacing is the third option that we can deal with in this section here. We're going to select double, and we're going to get rid of this extra space here and send it down to 0 and click OK. Now some of you may be tempted to press enter to add extra space after paragraphs. Do not do that. There are no extra spaces anywhere. And if you're thinking it makes your work look longer, it does not. It just makes your work look incorrect. So do not do that. Now, the last thing I need to do, so the basic appearance of the manuscript is all correct now. I've got the correct font, I've got the correct spacing, I've got the correct information at the top, and if I scroll down to the second page, I've got the correct page 2 numbering here, and I've got no additional information, which shows me that I put this header in the correct space and not up here in the margin, the incorrect space. The one last thing I need to add in is citations for my quotes. And for MLA format, again, as I have said before, and I will repeat it again, we're keeping it as simple and streamlined as possible. So we want to communicate information, but without being really distracting. So what we use for MLA is in-text citations, and there are two pieces of information that matter. One is who wrote it, and the other is where is it. And that means where is it in terms of what page is it on, or where is it in terms of what act, scene, and line number if it's a play, or line number if it's a poem. Now we're dealing with a poem, so I've got line numbers. This is my first reference here. I quote the phrase Winter's Day. So I need to put in the author's name, and I'm only putting in the last name and then the line number, and it's in the first line, so I put 1. And then I've moved my comma after the citation. And that is it. Nothing else goes in there. I don't put Paul for his first name. I don't put a comma inside the citation. I don't put page or line or a number sign, nothing, because we want it to be simple and streamlined so that it's there if the reader wants to look something up, but it's not going to distract the reader from the important stuff, which is what you are saying about this quote. I've got another one here. I need to move the period to after the citation. Now, I have already mentioned that the author is Simon. I am not writing about any other text, so I do not need to keep mentioning the author's name. So all I need here is a 2, so it's even more streamlined, and then the period afterwards. My next actual quote, this is just me being, you know, not sarcastic, but like showing it's false. It's not a quote from the actual text. The next one that I have is down here, to the streets below. That is line 5. All I need in the parentheses is a 5. And I've got here another quote. I need to move the period. All I need for that is a 7 to 8 because it's on 2 lines. And this, I've got these little slashes here to indicate that these are multiple lines. And I need again to move the period, parenthesis, and that is lines 9 to 11, and parenthesis, period, and so on. So that is how I'm adding in my citations, and I'm going to go through my entire document and add them all in. Now, I'm not going to do that because you don't need to watch the same action repeated 12 times. I'm sure the 4 or 5 times is enough. But the one piece that I'm missing is the Works Cited page, which would come after my whole argument, and it would show where I found this poem and the exact publication information. The other thing I would do before I would hand this in is just do a quick proofread. And one of the tools that I would use to help me with my proofread is these little blue lines, and I just right click on them and it reminds me that I really should have a space after that comma, and then I just click on the suggested correction and it fixes it for me. So make sure you take a moment to check for any hints that are in the document to help you avoid careless mistakes that make your work look sloppy or might even actually confuse your reader. So I hope that helps you with your setup. If you need to watch this video more than once, do so. If you need to watch it and pause it periodically while you're following the steps, do that as well. Good luck with your assignment.